taxi pulls up, I open the door, and there she was, a beautiful Thai lady. She had long black hair, kind eyes, and a beautiful smile that could end wars. I sat in the front, my daughter and my mom sat behind, and I started to talk to her since I speak pretty good Thai. So how do you zoom in to that special moment? You can use ATD. A for action, T for thoughts, and D for dialogue. Action. What was you doing? I stood in front of my office and was taking a deep breath. Thoughts. What were you thinking? I thought this famous person would not want to come on my podcast after what just happened. And dialogue. What was the exact word? He said, Joakim, your podcast is too small. I am canceling now. I would like to tell you about the time I was inside a coffee shop and I became angry and confused. It was many years ago when I was in rehab learning to stop drinking alcohol. After a long day with group therapy and self-reflection, me and a buddy from rehab decided that we want to do something calm and grown up. Let's go to a coffee shop. Welcome, welcome. Then we are ready for a new and powerful episode again. Let me ask you something. Why is it that some people can say just one sentence and suddenly the whole room gets quiet? And then others talk for 5 minutes and nobody remembers a single word. Today I'm going to show you the difference, not with theory, but with story. Because the truth is, you don't become a great storyteller by learning more. You become one by learning to feel more, notice more, and zoom in on the moment that matters. In this episode, I'm going to take you inside those moments. We're going to break down the story about the beautiful taxi driver I met. We're going to talk about espresso disaster, embarrassing moment, micro stories, and the exact technique used by world-class storytellers like Win Giang and Philip Hub. If you ever wish you could make people listen, if you ever wanted your story to land, to connect, to be remembered, then welcome. Because today I'm going to show you how to become a storyteller people never forget. It was 1 year ago. Me and my mom and my daughter went to Thailand to visit my sister, who was training MMA in Phuket at that time. And one afternoon, I had a 1.5 hour killer Muay Thai session with sweat, pain, and I asked myself, maybe I'm not as young as I think I am. After the session, I jumped down in the pool to cool off, and I feel like a champion. The sun was hot, the wind was soft, and life was really good. And we decided we're gonna go home, so we order a taxi. The taxi pulls up, I open the door, and there she was. A beautiful Thai lady. She had long black hair, kind eyes, and a beautiful smile that could end wars. I sat in the front, my daughter and my mom sat behind, and I started to talk to her, since I speak pretty good Thai. I asked her, where are you from? She said, I'm from Phuket. Oh, Phuket, that's a beautiful city. She laughed and I laughed. It was good vibes. And then she said to me, you speak good Thai. I say, thanks. You speak perfect Thai too. And we laughed. It was good vibes. This was perfect. And I started to fall in love way too fast. And then suddenly, Beyoncé's Halo started playing on the radio. And I'm not kidding. And I think, God, what has happened? What are you doing now? And then I start to ask her, do you have kids? Yes, I have 3, she said. Could be a stepdad. I'm flexible. And then I asked her, do you have a boyfriend? And she smiled and said, no. I have a husband. And then suddenly Beyoncé's Halo didn't hit the same. It went from a romantic song to a heartbroken karaoke. And before that, I was thinking to myself, I would like to hire this lady to drive me from Phuket to Chiang Rai, a 15 hours drive, so I can talk with she a lot. That's what love do. Make you forget about reality, gas prices, and logic. So the car stops and we went out. And my mom and my daughter look at me and said, "We saw that you like this lady." And I look at them and I said, "Yes, I did. But apparently her husband does too." And we all laughed and we went away. But I couldn't stop smile, because even if my heart has been broken for the last 5 minutes, this 10-minute taxi drive was amazing. It felt like a movie. And by the way, if you enjoyed this story and it gave you something, a laugh, a little inspiration, a new way to see the world, you can support the podcast with a tiny $2 coffee donation. It helps me keep creating those episodes every week. And honestly, it means more than you think. You find the link in the show note. Thank you. And a lot of the technique and ways to tell story I use in this episode, I have learned from watching video and studying Win Giang and Philip Humb. They are both great communicators and excellent storytellers. And here is what you need when you're gonna tell a story. You need a strong hook that will hook people into the story and they will like to hear more. That's so important, a strong hook at the start. Then you need the struggle/conflict. And then you need the breakthrough. And at the end, you need the big takeaway, the lesson given. And the best story have lesson at the end. And do not retell the story like reporter does. Relive the story, because when you relive it, the audience will feel it. We have to feel the emotion so that the audience can feel the emotion. If you're angry, you have to be angry. If you're sad, you have to be sad. If you're annoyed, you have to be annoyed. If you're happy, you have to be happy. And here is some basic ingredients stories need. You need who, what, where, and when. And you also need dialogue. For example, my mom, "Are you okay?" And me, "Yeah, I just didn't expect someone to make me feel something that fast." And my mom, "Oh, was it a 10-minute crush?" Me, "More like a 10-minute movie scene." So that we have dialogue with each other that make the story better. And details bring the story to life. And dialogue add color to the story. And every story needs mystery. We want to take our listeners on the same emotional journey we have experienced. In business, start with a story about the problem for your business and product. Then you come with the solution. And here is a story from Philip Humb. He gave an example for how you can share a story on how you discover a number. Instead of saying, "A week ago I was running a bunch of analyses and today I share some interesting result," you can say, "Hey, a week ago I was running this analysis and in one of those graphs I saw this massive drop. And I thought, whoa, this is crazy. This could impact our business for the next few years. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna share what the metrics was and how it's gonna affect us going forward." The story break the expectation and it become more interesting and different. And that's a great way to do it. So he just, instead of talk about some boring numbers he gonna give, he just start to tell and make it an interesting story. And I see when him told that, I get, whoa, that was interesting. That was a cool way to do it. And when you tell story, share the location is a great one because people start to visualize how it looked like. For example, I was in a coffee shop or I stand in a line in a grocery store. And then people start to visualize how the grocery store or coffee shop was. And what am I doing in this specific moment? What are you thinking? Thoughts and emotion. What are you feeling? Showing the emotion, make it more visual. And dialogue, what am I hearing? And And here is a framework you can use. Past, P-A-S-T. P for place. A, action. You describe what action is falling on. And S for speech. What did that person said at the exact moment? And T for thought. Share what did you think in that moment. And to shorten down stories, focus on specific sentence that shows a lot. And why does we need to shorten down stories? This is special in social media because people get so easy bored. They only look a little bit a story, and if it's a little bit boring, they just start scrolling. And if it's too long, they not want to hear it. So you have to make this story special on social media short and very good. So how does you short down a longer story? You can tell a story around the peak emotional moment and the peak action moment, and then about the lesson learned. Then you short down a story and make it good. And tell stories and improve them by yourself. Start sharing stories when someone asks, how are you? Share a tiny stories that show more about you as a human. Start telling micro story instead of giving a summary what you have done this day. And for example, today a client called me and canceled all his order. We're done with this today. And that can be the story. Micro story helps you become a better storyteller. We can share thoughts, micro moments with stress, sadness, joy, fun, and excitement we have through the day as a short story. Share the thoughts. When I tell a story, speak as I am speaking to my best friend. And stakes shows what's on the line. What can I gain or lose in every situation? Share the risk, what could go wrong, or share the opportunity of what I can gain. That's make the story more interesting. If I'm gonna teach people something, what was the moment in my life I learned this? And then I can share the story around it, because then it will become more interesting. And oxytocin, that's the love hormone. Trust, love, empathy, and bonding. When you hear good stories, you release oxytocin. And anytime something feels scary, go for it. Because you have to challenge yourself. Do it many times, then you will become tougher and tougher. And when you tell story, take people into that special moment, what you hear, feel, and smell. Not look it from a helicopter view above. Zoom in that special moment. That's what people want to hear. So how do you zoom in to that special moment? You can use ATD. A for action, T for thoughts, and D for dialogue. So for example, action. What was you doing? I stood in front of my office and was taking a deep breath. Thoughts. What were you thinking? I thought this famous person would not want to come on my podcast after what just happened. And dialogue. What was the exact word? He said, Joakim, your podcast is too small. I am canceling now. I would like to tell you about the time I was inside a coffee shop and I became angry and confused. It was many years ago when I was in rehab for learning to stop drinking alcohol. After a long day with group therapy and self-reflection, me and a buddy from rehab decided that we want to do something calm and grown up. Let's go to a coffee shop. We went inside the coffee shop. It was clean, nice, and not many people. We did smell the aroma, and it was perfect. It even sat two beautiful girls by the windows. My buddy goes first over to the barista, confident. I take a big cup of coffee, and then it's my turn. And I think, okay, I have to try to show that I know what I'm doing. So I went over, and I tell the barista, yeah, just give me an espresso. She smiled and said, "Of course." We sat down, start talking, watching the people pass by, and life felt great. Then the barista come over. She give my friend this big cup of coffee, and then she set a small glass in front of me. It looked like something that you rinse your teeth with when you are at the dentist. And I said to my friend, "Where's mine? Did she forget my coffee?" And he pointed at my glass. "No, this is yours." This little tiny one? "I think it was something that you should pour inside your coffee." He said, "No, this is actually yours." And 2 sips later, empty. And my friend was sitting there with his big coffee, sipping slowly like a king. And I was looking at my empty shot glass and was questioning my life choices. And then we start laughing. We laughed so much that my friend almost spilled out his coffee. And then I said, "Never again. I never in my life gonna order an espresso anymore." And that day I did learn something important. Always know what you order before you order it. Raising question is the secret to hold your listeners excited from start to finish. And when you have answered one question, you should raise another question. Always when you answer one, you put out a new one. And here is 3 simple steps for tell story. You need context, adversity, and takeaway. And everyone have a lot of small and relatable story to share. And here are a storytelling exercise. It's homework for life from Matthew Dix. Ask yourself every day, if I had to tell one story from today, what would be that one story? What one moment touched my heart today? Write down the date and the moment. Then I will learn that every single day there is a moment that could be turned into a beautiful story. So, date and 1 sentence about this story-worthy moment. And then you improvise a short story about it. Just start to talk about it. Train your brain to think in stories. And simple structure to guide your story. CAR, C-A-R. C for context, A for adversity, and R for resolution. But remember to always have a strong hook at the start, so people can get excited and want to hear more. And for the CAR, you have context. When and where does it take place? Who's the character? Adversity. What's the problem you're facing? Resolution. How do you overcome the adversity? And what's the result at the end? And refine your story using AI. So you can record your story, for example, 3 times. And when you have done that, you can actually use ChatGPT to improve your story. You record it directly into ChatGPT, and you can ask him or her, depends on what you like to call your ChatGPT, can you make this story better? So the story I told becomes great and funny, and it's told in the same way like a professional storyteller would have done it. And when you get a new story from ChatGPT, don't just read it. Study the story you get. What was it the AI actually changed? What sentence, detail, what stand out? And then you have to capture your story inside your story bank. And this you have to do once every week. Make a story bank to collect your stories. And what is a story bank? It's just a document where you write down your stories. And you can do this like this. Write down a short title, the point of the story, then the theme, for example, creativity, resilience, leadership, and a quick summary with a few bullet points. And a simple rating, how strong is this story? I also used to sort the story in 3 categories. Suspense stories, funny stories, and emotional stories. You can use Google Docs, Words, Excel, Notion, or what you want. It's actually up to you, my friend. People have a lot of story, but they do not remember them because they do not capture their stories inside their story bank. Capture your story in your story bank, and you will always have a lot of story to tell. And then you become a more interesting person. Gather the moment and then improve your story. Do this and you will turn into a magnetic storyteller. More reps means more confidence. Another storytelling technique: forward momentum, dialogue, and takeaway. And forward momentum means that the story is always moving somewhere. Something is happening, changing, or building. So the listeners feel pulsed forward and want to hear what's happened next. And how can you create forward momentum? You can raise in questions. For example, will I make it to the airport in time? Adding a small conflict to the problem. Make each moment lead naturally to the next. Keep emotion or stakes increase. And forward momentum, the feeling that the story is going somewhere and you can't stop listening. Another technique: sell your story. One sentence that make people excited and want to hear more. And then you can share your goals. And of course, you have to throw in some obstacle, build an emotional connection with your audience. Show the emotion. If you're angry, you have to be angry. If you're sad, you have to be sad. If you're happy, you have to be happy. If it's funny, you have to be funny. That's important because then the story becomes more real. And if you're happy, the audience will feel that you're happy. If you're sad, the audience will feel that you're sad. And share your thoughts. And then you can add time crunch. And what's that? That's, for example, if you're going to do a task so it's very hard and time consuming, but you just have a little time to do it. And share the dialogue. Here is the truth about storytelling. You don't need a crazy life. You don't need a perfect world. You don't need a script. You just need moments, tiny moments, and the courage to zoom in on them. If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this. Great storytellers aren't born, they're trained. They practice, relive their emotion. They're practicing telling the small stories that reveal something true about who they are. So here's your challenge. Today, find one moment, one feeling, one thought, one small thing that made you pause. Write it down. Say it out loud. That's it. Because if you do this every day, your story bank grows, your confidence grows, and your storytelling muscle grows. You don't become magnetic overnight. You become magnetic through repetition. Thank you for listening, and remember, people won't remember your fact, but they will always remember how your story made them feel. Now go tell yours. This episode was recorded on November 17, 2025. You will find everything you need in the show note, including the link to our webpage, the 101% podcast with letters.com, where you can subscribe to our free weekly newsletter, learn more about our premium episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone you care about. We're sharing for you, improve your storytelling skills, and become a more exciting person. Take care and give it your best and keep pushing for the 101%. It is important for us to get out our message so we can help as many people as possible. And we would highly appreciate it if you could take 1 minute of your time to follow us on social media and review the show on Apple Podcast and Spotify. All links are below. Our Instagram is the 101% podcast. Until next time, take care and go 101% into achieving your goals. You owe it to yourself.